January 3, 2026, 2:01 a.m., Caracas, Venezuela. The night air hangs thick and humid, heavy with the distant rumble of thunder, or is it something else? Explosions tear through the darkness, sharp cracks echoing off the mountains surrounding the city. Smoke rises in choking plumes, acrid and bitter, stinging the eyes of anyone awake in the streets below. Sirens wail in frantic bursts. Power flickers out across neighborhoods, plunging Caracas into an unnatural black void. Low-flying aircraft roar overhead, their engines a deafening growl that vibrates through the ground. In a fortified compound on the outskirts, steel doors groan under sudden force. Boots hit the floor hard. Flashlights cut through the shadows. Voices bark commands in English, sharp, urgent. A man jolts awake, heart pounding, scrambling toward a hidden safe room. But it's too late. Hands grab him firmly. His wife beside him freezes in terror. Blindfolds slip over their eyes. Handcuffs click shut. The air tastes of fear and gunpowder. Moments later, helicopters lift off into the chaotic sky, rotors thumping like a racing pulse. Below, fires glow at military bases, Fuerte Tiuna, La Carlota, debris scattering across runways. Anti-aircraft units lie twisted and silent. Nicolás Maduro, president of Venezuela, and his wife, Cilia Flores, are no longer in their country. They are airborne, bound for a U.S. warship in the Caribbean Sea. And the world is about to wake up to a new reality. This was Operation Absolute Resolve, a meticulously planned U.S. military strike that unfolded in just over 2 hours, involving more than 150 aircraft launched from bases and ships across the hemisphere. Fighter jets streaked through the night for cover. Bombers and drones neutralized defenses. Surveillance planes watched every move. And elite Delta Force commandos, flown in by low-skimming helicopters, executed the extraction with precision. No American lives lost. A few injuries, but the mission succeeded beyond expectations. President Donald Trump, watching a live feed from Mar-a-Lago, gave the final go-ahead late Friday night. By dawn, he announced it to the world on Truth Social: Maduro and his wife captured, flown out of Venezuela after a large-scale strike. But why now? Why this bold move in early 2026? To understand, we have to go back. Far back, Venezuela was once one of the richest nations in Latin America, sitting on the world's largest proven oil reserves, more than 300 billion barrels. In the early 2000s, under Hugo Chavez, it embraced 21st-century socialism. Oil revenues funded massive social programs. Poverty dropped. Hospitals and schools bloomed, but cracks appeared. Chavez's handpicked successor, Nicolás Maduro, took power in 2013 after Chavez's death from cancer. Maduro lacked his mentor's charisma. Oil prices crashed in 2014. Corruption festered. Mismanagement hollowed out the economy. Hyperinflation hit millions % in 2018. People lost life savings overnight. Supermarkets emptied. Medicine vanished. Millions fled. Over 7 million Venezuelans scattered across the region, the largest exodus in Latin American history. Maduro clung to power. Protests erupted in 2014, 2017. Security forces cracked down brutally. Hundreds died. Thousands imprisoned. The U.S. watched closely. In 2020, the Department of Justice unsealed indictments against Maduro and top officials. Charges: narco-terrorism, conspiring to flood the U.S. with cocaine, partnering with Colombian FARC rebels designated as terrorists. A $15 million reward offered for his arrest. Later doubled to $50 million, the highest ever on a foreign leader. Trump's first term imposed tough sanctions. But Maduro endured, backed by allies like Russia, Cuba, Iran. China loaned billions. Elections came and went, disputed. In 2018, Maduro won amid boycott calls. Opposition barred. In 2024, another contested vote. Maduro claimed victory despite evidence suggesting otherwise. Repression intensified. By late 2025, tensions boiled. U.S. forces built up in the Caribbean, carriers, destroyers. Tankers seized for carrying sanctioned oil. Strikes hit alleged drug boats. Intelligence poured in. CIA teams, operating covertly, mapped Maduro's routines. Where he slept. What he ate. His pets. A human source close to him provided critical details. Stealth drones hovered unseen. Rehearsals began. Full-scale mock-ups of his safe house built for Delta Force to practice breaches, even steel doors replicated. Weather delayed the final order a few days. But on January 2nd, conditions cleared. At Mar-a-Lago, Trump monitored screens, live feeds, social media reactions. Good luck and Godspeed, he told the teams. The strike hit pre-dawn. Air defenses crippled first. Power grids targeted for blackout, cyber elements involved, blacking out parts of Caracas. Helicopters skimmed waves at 100 feet, evading radar. Ground forces met resistance, self-defense fire exchanged. But overwhelming. Inside the compound, Maduro tried for his panic room. Didn't make it. He and Cilia surrendered quickly, exfiltrated by 3:29 a.m. Eastern. On board USS Iwo Jima by morning, Trump posted photos, Maduro blindfolded, handcuffed, headphones on. Another of him aboard the ship. By evening, a plane touched down near New York. Maduro and Flores transferred to federal custody, Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Facing those long-standing charges, narco-terrorism, drug conspiracy, weapons, Trump addressed the nation from Florida. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. U.S. oil companies, he said, would be very strongly involved. Celebrations erupted in Miami's Venezuelan exile communities. Protests elsewhere, condemnations from Latin America, Russia, China. Venezuela's Supreme Court named Vice President Delcy Rodriguez acting leader, but one question lingered, unanswered in the chaos. With Maduro gone, who really controls Venezuela now, and for how long? Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in a classified hangar somewhere in the continental United States, elite operators from the Army's Delta Force run through the breach one more time. Sweat drips under night vision goggles. The air smells of gun oil and fresh-cut plywood. They've built an exact replica of Maduro's fortified safe house, down to the steel doors, the layout of the bedrooms, even the placement of furniture based on drone footage and human intelligence. They practice with massive blowtorches, ready to cut through reinforced walls if needed. Flashbangs pop. Breachers slam doors. Operators flow in, clearing rooms in seconds. Again and again, until every move is muscle memory. This isn't a game. Lives depend on it. And the clock is ticking. Back in the Caribbean, the buildup has been massive but quiet. The aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford steams in position. Destroyers patrol. More than 150 aircraft wait on decks and runways, from F-35 fighters to bombers, surveillance planes to stealth drones. Cyber teams from U.S. Cyber Command prepare to plunge parts of Caracas into darkness at the precise moment. And inside Venezuela, a small CIA team, operating without diplomatic cover since the embassy closed years ago, has been feeding priceless intel. They know Maduro's routines intimately, where he sleeps on certain nights, what he eats for dinner, even the names of his pets. A key human source, someone close to the inner circle, tips the scales. Locations confirmed. Vulnerabilities mapped. Weather holds the final key. Storms delay the go order a few times. But on January 2nd, forecasts clear. At Mar-a-Lago, screens glow in a secure room. President Trump watches live feeds. Advisors stand by, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane. Trump had given Maduro chances to leave, private calls, public warnings. But the indictments stand: narco-terrorism, flooding America with cocaine through partnerships with designated terrorist groups like the FARC. The reward on his head, $50 million, the highest ever. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern on Friday night, Trump gives the final approval. Good luck and Godspeed, he tells the teams. Operation Absolute Resolve launches. It begins with precision strikes. Bombers and drones take out anti-aircraft sites at La Carlota Air Base and Fuerte Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military complex. Explosions bloom orange against the night sky. Debris scatters across runways. Power grids flicker and die. Cyber hits blacking out neighborhoods, confusing defenses. Fighter jets streak overhead for suppression. Surveillance aircraft orbit, eyes in the sky. Then the helicopters come in low. MH-47 Chinooks from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, skimming waves at 100 feet to evade radar. Inside, Delta operators, DEA agents for the arrest, ready for anything. They touch down near the compound. Resistance flares, self-defense fire crackles. But overwhelming force answers back. Boots hit the ground. Doors explode inward. Inside the residence, chaos. Maduro wakes to shouts and flashes. He lunges toward his steel-reinforced panic room. Trump later calls it a safe room with massive steel. But he doesn't make it. Operators seize him and Cilia Flores in their bedroom. No prolonged fight. They surrender quickly, blindfolds on. Handcuffs click. Headphones to block sound. Life vests for the flight. By 3:29 a.m. Eastern, the helicopters are over water again, Maduro and his wife aboard, bound for the USS Iwo Jima waiting in the Caribbean. No U.S. casualties. A few injuries, but the extraction clean. Dawn breaks. Trump posts the first photo, Maduro blindfolded, headphones on, gray Nike sweatsuit, sitting subdued on the ship. The world reacts in shock. In Miami, Venezuelan exiles erupt in joy, car horns blaring, flags waving, tears of relief after years of suffering under Maduro's rule. In Caracas, streets empty under curfew. Some cheer quietly. Others protest in fear. Latin American leaders condemn violations of sovereignty, dangerous precedent. Russia and China demand immediate release. Cuba rallies thousands in outrage, but in Washington, officials stand firm. This was justice for a narco-state, they say. For the millions displaced, the hyperinflation, the repression, Maduro and Flores fly to New York. Processed by DEA. Transferred to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, charges await: narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation, weapons offenses, building on the 2020 indictment, now superseding with more evidence. Trump speaks from Mar-a-Lago. U.S. oil companies will be very strongly involved. America will run Venezuela temporarily, for a safe, proper transition. Venezuela's Supreme Court names Vice President Delcy Rodriguez acting leader, but as celebrations mix with condemnations, one burning question hangs in the air: with Maduro in a U.S. cell, and American forces still poised nearby, what happens if loyalists fight back, or if the power vacuum sparks chaos no one can control? January 3, 2026, dawn breaks over Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida. The air is warm, thick with salt from the nearby Atlantic. Screens flicker in a secure command room, live drone feeds, satellite imagery, bodycam footage from the operators. President Trump stands silent, arms crossed, watching as the final helicopter lifts off Venezuelan soil. A collective breath releases. No red lights. No losses. Good job, he says quietly. Then louder, extraordinary. Hours later, he steps to the podium outside, sunlight glinting off the ocean behind him. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane flank him. Trump speaks plainly. The operation succeeded. Maduro and Cilia Flores are in U.S. custody. Aboard the USS Iwo Jima first, now en route to New York. Facing long-standing charges: narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation, weapons offenses. A superseding indictment unsealed, building on the 2020 case. We are going to run the country, Trump declares, until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. U.S. oil companies, he adds, will be very strongly involved. Venezuela's vast reserves, the world's largest, will flow again, infrastructure rebuilt. The room erupts in questions. Legality. Sovereignty. Precedent. Trump brushes them aside. This was justice. For a narco-state. For millions displaced. For cocaine weaponized against America, but the world doesn't see it that way. In Caracas, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez appears on state television, voice defiant. An illegal and illegitimate kidnapping. She demands proof of life. Venezuela's Supreme Court names her acting leader. Curfews tighten. Some streets empty in fear. Others fill with quiet relief. Across Latin America, outrage boils. Brazil's President Lula calls it a dangerous violation, echoing dark chapters of U.S. interference. Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum condemns the breach of sovereignty. Colombia's Gustavo Petro warns of chaos and instability. Chile's Gabriel Boric urges peaceful solutions, respect for international law. Cuba labels it state terrorism. Russia and China demand immediate release, decrying unilateral force. The UN Secretary-General voices deep alarm, a dangerous precedent. Even allies hesitate. France, Germany, Spain acknowledge Maduro's ruinous rule but question the method. Yet in Miami, Venezuelan exiles dance in the streets. Flags wave. Tears flow. Finally, they whisper. After years of exile, hyperinflation, lost loved ones, back in New York, Evening falls cold and gray. A federal plane touches down at Stewart Air National Guard Base. Maduro steps out, handcuffed, blindfolded earlier but now visible, gray sweatsuit rumpled. Escorted by DEA agents in jackets marked clearly. He walks a hallway carpeted with DEA NYD. Processed. Fingerprinted. Photographed, then to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. A cell awaits. Arraignment Monday, Cilia Flores beside him, same path, the charges are grave. Leading the cartel de Los Sols. Partnering with terrorists to flood America with drugs. Billions in cocaine, prosecutors say evidence is ironclad, years of intelligence, now unbreakable, but trials take time. Appeals longer, and Venezuela, no U.S. boots occupy Caracas. Forces remain offshore, poised, oil fields silent for years. Infrastructure decayed, rebuilding. Years, experts say. Billions needed, power vacuum looms. Loyalists. Militias. Gangs like Tren de Aragua, Delcy Rodriguez vows resistance, opposition figures, long suppressed, emerge cautiously. What comes next? A transition overseen from afar. International coalition. Elections, or escalation, protests, violence, spill over to neighbors. Trump's move ended one era brutally, decisively. It began another, uncertain and fraught. One man sits in a Brooklyn cell tonight, far from the palace he clung to. A nation holds its breath, and the world watches, wondering if this bold stroke brings freedom, or something far more unpredictable. If you followed this far, what do you think happens next in Venezuela? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like if you want more breakdowns on global flashpoints. Subscribe for updates as this story unfolds, because it's only just beginning.